You got the flat bill accelerate hat,
Yeah,
right?
so for a millennial, it's fine. A boomer wants to get that,
Yeah, yeah, bend the bill for
bend the
sure.
bill. But I like the hoodie a lot.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
nice.
it's you know,
Did did it come with, like, a care package with some accelerate socks too, or what?
so we don't have Accelerate socks.
Not yet.
What we have is F3 socks. And I am searching for I get emails and texts and WhatsApp messages all the time about with F3 sock vignettes. And of course, I'm forced to choose which one I think is the most representative of the obvious superiority of F3 socks. And it's difficult.
Mm,
And this morning I spent way too long, just a little bit over an hour, trying to find the best F3 socks vignette. And what I found, he asked me not to share this, but I will say it was from the Midwest, which is Omaha.
Midwest, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Uh, from a Midwest workout. And this F3 socks story from this particular guy was that he had been waiting to be called upon to cue a particular workout. He volunteered, and the site queue's kind of dictatorial, doesn't want him. If this is your story, if this is what,
No, I
okay,
it's not me, nope.
didn't want to let him have it, and it was kind of bumming the guy out. He's thinking about quitting F3. Anyway, he finally bought himself some F3 socks, put them on, came to the workout. The site Q saw him with those socks and immediately said, "Why don't you Q at the very next time this workout meets?"
Yeah,
Uh, so it's another F3 sock success story.
nice, I
And
like
I
it.
don't know where, if that's in Norman. Do we have Norman, F3 Norman?
Nope,
We
just
don't.
F3 Omaha is all it's one region state so far.
Oh, really?
Well, we have F3
Uh,
Columbus, I suppose.
is Columbus also in Nebraska?
Yeah, yep.
Okay. Uh, okay, that's great. Anyway, that's well, a tagline is life's too short to wear crappy socks.
That's right. That's right. It sure is.
If you're going to be a winner, you're going to need a coach.
Sharpening doesn't happen by accident. A blade left untouched will rust, and a man left unchallenged will stagnate. Every man needs friction, resistance, and a whetstone to grind away weakness and reveal his true edge. Welcome to the Whetstone, where we reject comfort, disrupt the status quo, and forge men ready for impact. Hosted by Dredd, Dark Helmet, and me, The Plague. This is where men step out of the drift and into acceleration, because iron sharpens iron, and no man sharpens alone.
So
And we're back.
keep those F3 socks vignettes coming
Yeah.
because many of them are incredible.
We should if they should send them on, we could include them in the
We
YouTube
could,
video as like
we
an
could,
actual promo.
we could, we
I
could.
would love that. Um, well, I have some good news, Dredd. I got the job.
Not surprised at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. How do you feel?
I'm equally like excited and terrified now. So I don't know. It's one of those moments where like it's super humbling. I've had some people reach out about just congratulating me and you don't really know as a leader how you're doing, and because people tell you the bad stuff, right? You
Yeah,
always hear about
yeah.
the complaints and had a few people send just really nice messages and emails and things. So that's been really humbling. And then I think also just recognizing, if I got the job, that means the other guy didn't. And so just trying to be mindful of what that experience is
Yeah.
like and how I might go through that. But yeah, it's, I've got about 75 people now that I feel a ton of responsibility for to lead well. And I think, continuing to learn how to do that. I think a lot of our conversations, it's interesting just thinking about the conversations we've had and even some of this, like, defining a mission for the team, how do we go through that and do that well? So I'm excited to try some different things. I think historically it's been sort of top down. Here's the mission, thou shalt follow. So I'm excited to kind of engage some of the team in like, what do they feel like the mission is, and really develop that together. So
What's the unit that you over which you are now presiding called?
so I'm in healthcare IT, and really on the front end of that. So clinical and business applications is the division that I'm leading. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Kaba.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Your Q of Kaba.
Yeah. Kaba. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So,
So
but my first act taking charge of anything is always to reduce its name to an acronym
why is that?
because it stands out in people's heads, and it just for whatever reason,
Yeah.
it just works. So uh, that's one of the things I do.
Yeah.
Ca-
Well, one of the things that I led a couple workouts this week, and one of them I gave a COT
is it
talk.
because you were wearing F3 socks that you were allowed to lead?
It was, yeah.
Okay, all
That,
right,
that was one of the requirements.
okay.
And there's a few guys have asked if we're going to make that the sixth core principle.
We probably should.
Uh,
It's you mean just say life's too short to wear crappy socks?
right.
Okay,
Just
yeah.
like add it to the credo, maybe somewhere in there.
Sure, sure,
Leave
sure.
no man behind, which means we don't let them wear
Right.
crappy socks.
Leave no man in crappy socks.
That's right. Uh, no, but we were talking about, holding the middle and andism versus orism. And I
Yep.
think that resonated with a lot of guys. And I think, really just looking at different things, like what are those sort of essential, the essentials, right, for
Right.
different groups that I'm a part of. But one of the things that I notice, like, as I'm in this role, uh, you know, um, it's new and there's all these different decisions, and you think of like, okay, well, now I've got to create a vision and a mission and do all of these things. And then as I'm sort of thinking about some of the minivan centurion stuff, it kind of reminded me of like some of the verbiage from the meteorologist Jim stuff of
Yeah.
like, making different decisions, not getting sort of analysis paralysis, but also there's some timing, like, finesse in there.
Right.
So I was kind of wondering if we could dive into that and just sort of talk through
Yeah.
that sort of idea. I know we've talked about decision making a few times, but wanted to talk through that. And then also, I'm not sure where they're at in the chapters of Minivan Centurion, but wanted to talk through the kind of this idea of like good carpenters and sort of like, like the craftsmanship of leading people, and not, my team does a lot of project management, but I want to, in this role, right, I need to elevate and lead the people, not just manage and help manage the project. So I don't know if those are related or where you would
I see what you mean. No,
start with that.
they are related, and really the whole thing is related to the idea of getting men to lead through individual initiative.
Yeah.
The power of men leading with who as sua sponte leaders who are not waiting to be told what to do is always the demarcation of a tremendously effectively group and a group that's heading towards bullfrog land. You just can't be dynamic as an organization if men are waiting for meteorologist Jim to tell them whether they can go outside.
Yeah.
So that analogy of meteorologist Jim, what that's designed to remind men is that it's fine to take advice from someone who's a distant expert about whatever.
Hmm.
And but it's not fine to abdicate your responsibility to make decisions for the people for whom you are directly responsible when you are the closest leader on the ground to those people.
Yeah.
There's waiting to be told from headquarters what to do,
Mhm.
because the many problems with that are, number one, headquarters is a long way away,
Right.
and headquarters does not have all the information it ever needs to make good decisions. So, kind of shift fields for a second and just talk about basic economics. So if you go to Adam Smith, The Wealth of Nations economic theory, it's that the market makes more rational decisions with each and every person making a rational decision on his own behalf as to what he wants to spend his money on. That's the guiding hand principle.
Hmm.
So that's the liberal idea of economics, is you leave it to the market to make decisions, because that collective knowledge of each market player brought together is much more vibrant and powerful than a small centralized committee somewhere saying, this is how many toothbrushes we're going to need in Omaha
Right.
next year. And that's literally what centralized planning does. When they try to make that decision, they always get it wrong.
Hmm.
And if you leave it to people to say, well, I want this toothbrush, I want that toothbrush. If you leave it to that, supply and demand work to provide the right amount of toothbrushes. That's why if you go into American supermarket, you got 47,000 different choices for everything, and somehow it's incredibly efficient at delivering the products that people want to the people who want those products.
Hmm.
And the Soviet model, the centralized planning model, is a complete abysmal failure. It couldn't do it because central planners will never have enough knowledge. They can't. No one person, no group of people possibly can ever have that knowledge. And so you take that example as to the meteorologist Jim thing. So the vignette is that that meteorologist Jim is actually Jim, and I forgot the guy's last name.
Cantori, right?
Cantori, yeah, Jim Cantori. Guy worked for the Weather Channel, maybe he still does. I mean, there's no real reason to watch the Weather Channel anymore with the weather app, whatever. So my wife is used to be a big Weather Channel watcher. I'm like, if it's raining, it's raining. There's nothing I can do about it. Knowing about it coming provides me with really very little useful knowledge. My wife would watch it. I'd sit there watching it. I'm watching this guy Cantori one day, and he's down somewhere in North Carolina coast covering a hurricane, talking about it. And then he just goes off on some tirade. Because apparently some farmers down there, some people live on the coastline, declined the government's invitation to leave their houses and move inland. And I don't think this was one of those deals where Cat 4 was bearing down. It was, it was at least arguable. And he just went on this tirade. The experts have told you, I've told you, you're being irresponsible. And it kind of made me mad.
Hmm.
And on a couple of reasons. I'm like, number one, I looked the guy up. He's from New Hampshire. And I'm from Connecticut. It's very close by. We don't need guys from New England coming down here telling and I'm an adopted North Carolinian, what to do. Not interested.
Yeah.
Tell people in New Hampshire what to do if you want to do it. I'm not really interested in what Jim Cantori has to say about whether or not I should leave my house or in a rainstorm. I will listen to him say the barometer's going up, the barometer's going down. He can show me his charts, say here it is, and then leave the decision to me.
Yeah.
So that to me is what agency is all about, right? I have agency to decide for me and my family what we're going to do, starting with the most basic, which is we're going to leave the house,
Mhm.
and going to the more complicated, what school are you going to, how am I going to raise you? Am I going to buy another house? Am I going to do a renovation? I am the Q of my household. I will make those decisions, not ignoring the meteorologist Jim's advice, but not abdicating my agency to the meteorologist Jim.
Mm.
Not going to do that. I'm going to make that decision. Now, flip side of that, the argument to make on the other side of it, which is this. Well, how about the guy that clings to his house, won't leave when he's told to, and then stays there, causes a hazard, people got to come rescue him? I would say no. Don't rescue the guy. I wouldn't ask to be rescued.
Mm.
If I'm going to make that decision, then I have to take the consequences of my own agency. If you are the agent empowered to make the decisions, then the consequences of those decisions are also yours to bear as well. So if you're not willing to take the consequences of those decisions, then you are not actually an agent, and your agency can be removed from you. See, that's the problem that we have in America with the idea of the meteorologist Jim right now, right? We've got people that are afraid to make decisions, more than willing to turn over their important decisions in life to meteorologist Jim. Got that set of people.
Yeah.
Then we have a set of people like, no, I'm going to decide. And if their decisions go badly, they want a bailout.
Yeah.
I made a bad decision. Come bail me out. I'm like, no, both y'all are wrong. It's the middle, as usual, what I'm going to say. It's the middle that's right. The right way is to say, I am the agent. I have responsibility and authority to make this decision, and also responsibility for the consequences of that decision if it goes awry.
Yeah.
So that example, and you break it out to a lot of the other things that affect us as men in an organization where men are waiting to be told by meteorologist Jim what to do next. That organization is a bullfrog.
Yeah.
So now, as you take over Kaba, if you're waiting for the head, where's the head shed of your organization?
What's that?
Where's the head shed?
Oh, like I have an executive director and he's got a VP and
No, but where are they located? Where are they sitting?
Oh, in Nebraska, in Omaha.
Okay, so they're physically, in proximity, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Same building. Okay, so that's not bad. At least they're right there. But let's say, for argument's sake, they're in Austin, Texas. You're waiting for these guys. You're in Cabo in Omaha, waiting for the guys in Austin, Texas to tell you what to do. That's not good leadership.
Mm-hmm.
You should be telling them what you intend to do to
Yeah.
fulfill the purpose of the organization. You should be bringing that to them. This is what I'm going to do, not waiting for them to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
That would
How,
be reversing meteorologist Jim.
one of the things that I notice, so I've kind of experimented a little bit with this and sort of like pushing a few of my team members, like, you decide, like, I trust you, you have the expertise, you have the knowledge, like, I'll support whatever you decide. And there's this hesitation as though like the only, the consequence, because the consequence may be failure, but as we know, right, failure is, we're trying to court failure to develop
Right.
leaders, right? And so
Right.
but I think somehow there's this notion that if I fail, then I might get fired. And so then I want to make sure that you decide for me so that if it fails, then I can come back and say, well, no, you told me to do that.
Sure, of course.
So how do we like rebuild the culture so that people get comfortable with the consequences and then thus with the decision making? I don't know.
Right. So they've been conditioned that way.
Yeah.
Perhaps from their upbringing, perhaps your organization has been running like that. That might be true. So they've been conditioned to not lead through the process, but rather process totally. Like they are processors. It's what I call lawyers who act like that. Instead of using the process to litigate, they litigate the process. They're afraid to make decisions. They're afraid to fail. They're afraid of what the consequences might be. And you've got to change the culture of that, to flip it from a C2 culture, right, to an I, or C3 culture to an I2 culture. You have got to do that. And the way you do that is team development, right? So F3, Q source, team development, TEAM, TB, and trust, reliance between team members. First thing you got to do is build trust. Without the trust, nothing else will work. And I can't give you the 5-step process to build trust. I can't tell you, well, if you do trust falls, if you go out and, do a ropes course or something. I'm not saying those things are bad. I'm just saying that it's not a checklist where you say, oh, we did trust falls. How come you don't trust me now? No, it's going to have to be over time where they watch you and they see that you have integrity in word and deed. What you say and what you do conforms very closely with what you say that you believe. That's the way to build trust. Be consistent, and we talked about consistency. Be consistent, be content, all those things, candor, all those leadership virtues. If they see that, then they will begin to build trust in you and think that they can actually take the chance of individual initiative. So that's the T.
Is part of in this context, right, if we're teaching people how to sort of lead through the consequences of their decisions, is part of that to like recognize like when somebody does fail, recognize it in a positive light? Like, is that maybe part of it, to like, if they think
not
failure,
a positive light, in a non in neither positive nor negative. So here's what I mean. I think managers, people in managerial positions, are terrible at giving instantaneous feedback, and feedback at all, but particularly instantaneous feedback.
Yeah.
Again, non-meteorologist Jim feedback. In two-phone world, you have these 360 reviews and the end of the year and all that junk.
Yeah.
To me, that's a substitute for the actual trust building feedback that a leader would give. So a leader should recognize both failures and successes, no matter how small, immediately,
Mm.
without a lot of drama or emotion. Hey, man, you were supposed to do this, it didn't happen. Right? Just observation, right?
Yeah.
It's not like, man, how many times have I had to told you? Just like your kids, without all the drama, without all the, you're supposed to do X, you didn't do X. We need to do X. You understand what I'm talking about? Right?
Mhm.
Maybe it's the fact that I haven't gotten the message through. Or you can do it Socratically. Is there a reason why you didn't do this? Maybe it's because I haven't explained it. Can I help you, give you some more training? That's how you should face a failure, a negative,
Yeah.
right? That's the 1 minute response. Same thing on the good. If I see something good, I'm quick to say it. Man, as in my business, which is litigation, I see somebody writes a good brief. I'm like, man, that's excellent brief. Excellent. Couldn't have done it better myself. Keep that up. Right? Just right
Mhm.
immediate. Quicker and the more immediate it is, the more effective it is, and the more specific it is. So I do a 1 month with my guys, all my guys, and even that to me is a little bit too intermediate, just a little too delayed,
Yeah.
because I'm looking at their hours. I'm saying, okay, you met the standard, whatever. And I do say, hey man, you were really good this month at this, that, the other thing. Tell them, here's some things you need to improve on. It takes 45 seconds to
Mhm.
do that. But that's not the meat of what I consider the trust building feedback. For me, it's that immediate meat,
Yeah.
immediacy. That builds trust. So they know where you stand because they want the feedback. They
Mhm.
want it. They're just not accustomed to getting it. And they don't want the emotion wrapped up into it. I mean, that's the thing I think that turns people off or makes them distrustful is inconsistent emotional reactions based on how you as the leader might feel in a particular moment. You have to discipline and steel yourself to react to negative occurrences in the same way as positive occurrences.
Mm.
Not that you're like, hey, great, we failed. Let's all jump up and down and have some ice cream. No. Okay, that was a fail. We need to fix that. All right. Hey, man, that was boom, knockout. That's great. Let's do that again.
Yeah.
Same tone of voice, same quick feedback. That builds trust. And before you know it, they start being really candid with you and being really willing to tell you things because they don't want to carry them around. They don't want to carry the negatives around, right?
Yeah.
So they want to give you the bad news quick because we're gonna move on. They also want to tell you the triumphs too, because they know you're going to give them some quick and good affirmation. So they want to do that too. Hey man, like with my business, lawyer comes in, had a hearing, had a motion, we got to win. I'm like, great. I always say, post that W,
Mhm.
emotionally, post that win, right? They come back, they have a loss. I say, bam, what happened? They tell me. And if there's something they screwed up, I say, you might want to try this, or can't win them all, right? Uh, every decision a judge makes is a 50-50 decision. There's going to be a winner. There's going to be a loser. Let's figure out how we can do it better next time. Or if it's a particular judge and I know the guy, I'm like, yeah, you weren't going to win that one.
Mhm.
That was a tough one, but I give them quick, immediate, candid feedback without the emotion.
Yeah.
That's how you start building trust from the very start for the T.
I love it.
So that next thing's the E. If you're ready to move on to the E,
Yeah, one other question you mentioned, and I'm trying to like think in my mind to remember. So I2 is individual initiative, right? But
right?
C3
Centrally
remi
controlled collectivism.
okay, okay, yep,
Central. So just think, this might be a little bit post your like historical knowledge or whatever, but think Berlin post World War II.
okay,
Okay, I don't know what your historical background on that is, like what you don't know, but so there was a race by the Allies, Soviets, Americans, and the English. Basically, we and the Brits were together. Soviets coming from the east, we're coming from the west. There was a race to take down Berlin. Some dirty deals that got made politically that had to be made. Whatever. Soviets get about half the city, and we basically get not the other half. The French got a quarter, the Brits got a quarter. Soviets got half of it. But bottom line of this is half of Berlin is East Berlin, half is
mhm,
West Berlin, right? West Berlin being under the Western Allies. And for the first 15 years or so, the Germans could kind of go back and forth. And, they were more free on the West side. So that's where they go. So in the early 60s, 1960s, Soviets put up a wall claiming that the decadence of the West is infecting the People's, Republic, Democratic
Yeah.
Republic of Germany. So they put up this wall, but you could look at it and see on the West it was rich, on the East it was poor.
Mm.
Because on the East it was all C3, centrally controlled collectivism. We'll tell
Mhm.
you how many toothbrushes you need, comrade. On the West, you got, you know, Americans selling toothbrushes,
Yep.
right? Like how many toothbrushes these Germans going to buy, right? How many can we buy? How many can we sell, right? So, of course, you have full shelves in the supermarkets in the West, and you got empty shelves and waiting lines in the East. It just doesn't work. So,
Yeah.
same thing in an organization, centrally controlled collectivism as a management style. Will we, instead of empowering people to take the initiative of making decisions, pushing that out as far as we can, out to the ends of the starfish, we're going to control it and have information controlled, authority controlled, and out here you're basically just going to be doing what we tell you to do. That's C3.
Yeah.
C3 organizations are ineffective in the long run. They lack dynamism. I2 organizations, highly effective, highly dynamic, because you have individual leaders constantly making decisions, and the rapidity of which they can make those decisions and take action in furtherance of the mission is so much better and so much more effective than you do in a C3 organization that there's just no comparison. So
Yeah.
those are your two
Makes
things.
makes me wonder that comparison of East and West Berlin is sort of like, and I'm sure if you looked at this, right, C3 organizations have maybe higher rates of burnout or whatever, the word we want to use. But, I would imagine people are more satisfied in a job where they have, the ability to make their own decisions. But it's kind of interesting, right? Because culturally in America, we've kind of gotten comfortable abdicating decision making, and so then I'm noticing, like, as I'm pushing, saying you decide, I trust your decision. I'm getting a little bit of like pushback on that. Like, are you sure? I'm not really sure how to do that, and so this is good. But yeah, let's move on to the E in the team.
Well, I just want to hit one thing on what you said. C3 is the default. I2 is the leadership. I mean, you leave an organization to its own devices, it's going to C3. It's going to turn into that.
Yeah,
And I2, because I2 requires leadership.
yeah,
C3, instead of an individual using influence and leadership to make things happen, they rely on chicanery and compulsion. So a lot more C's over there, right? So
mhm,
that's what they rely upon. They lie and they force. Instead of using carrots to incentivize positive behavior, they use sticks to punish behavior they don't want.
mhm,
And carrots just work better, man.
yeah,
So but the sticks is that's the default position of the non-led organization. That's
mm,
that's just what you're going to get. The more signs, meetings, right, rules you have, the more of a C3 bullfrog you got. The less you have, the more individual initiative. You don't need to put up a sign in the break room that says "wash your own cups."
right,
You don't, because the leader does it.
yeah,
I mean, I clean the kitchen in my break room. I'm the senior partner. I go in there. I wash other people's dishes. I
mhm,
never said a word about it. I never said a word. People were kind of leaving their dishes there. First of all, I made sure that I didn't do that. They bring their
mm,
lunch and they leave it there soaking or whatever. And
yeah,
then I started washing their stuff. There's no dishes in my sink
yeah,
because they saw me do it. If anybody asked me about it once in a while, I was like, "Yeah, I just thought I'd help you out. I'd help you out. I know you're busy."
mhm,
And then they get that in their head. That's the right thing. So I modeled it, did it, consistent about it. Didn't have to make
yeah,
it dramatic. Last thing on earth you want to put up is a sign,
right.
right?
That reminds me, I was listening to a podcast the other day. It was talking about Jesus washing the disciples' feet. And they
Perfect
were talking
example.
about the only two times in the Bible that the word basin is used. So there's one time when Pontius Pilate washes his own hands,
Right.
And then the second time is when Jesus washes his disciples' feet. And so I just kind of made me think of that, like as the leader, are you washing other people's dishes? That's a great
Right.
example. Or are you the one, are you going to pick up the piece of trash off the floor
Right.
as you're walking
Right.
by, as opposed to waiting for somebody else?
Right. So I'm stealing this from someone I can't remember this. But everybody steals from each other in the leadership realm,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So the idea is that if there's trash, this is actually a military thing. So you have like what's called the company area. That's where the unit is, whatever. So there's trash in the company. There's like something on the ground. Said, so a a non-leader walks right by it and thinks, I'll just get some private to pick that up. Makes a
Mhm.
note in his head. A leader picks it up himself. A great leader picks it up himself and then makes it his business to find out why his soldiers are throwing trash on the ground.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't just do the thing. He says, there's a cultural issue here. I like when I go to other law firms, take depositions, whatever. I like to walk around their little areas and look at what they look like. If they don't have, if they're messy, if it doesn't seem organized, I know I'm looking at a poor culture. Because it's obvious that the boss, whoever it is not setting and maintaining high standards. So that's the A part of team. But getting back to the E, which is the equipping, that's matching the team's members with its mission. So if you have trust, that's critical. Then you look at your folks and you go, okay, I've got this mission. Do I have the right guys performing the right parts of the mission based on what they're good at? Do I have that? Or do I have Ringo Starr playing the guitar for some reason, right? You do I have the guys that are really good at what they're really good at doing the things that they're really good at? Have I taken the time to do that? Have I also said the guys that should not be here, they got to go? Have I done that? Have I Black Tahoe those people? So whatever it is, the component parts of the mission, right? Whatever it is that Kaba does, do I have the right guy? So I'm assuming you don't try to exert a span of control over 75 people, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting because the timing of this, we're going through some other restructuring. Essentially the same day I accepted this role, there's some other restructuring, and so that's one of the things we're going through is looking at the skill sets that we have, and that this is where I think just like in my own personal life, right? If the mission is unclear, then sort of all these other things
They fall apart, right?
become really
Right.
challenging, right? How do
Right,
you align
right.
your so we're going through looking at the skills that we need to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish, and I think so it's interesting timing for sure.
Right. But your span of control is not 75. I hope.
I have three managers that
3. You got
report
3. So
directly to me.
that's
Yep.
perfect.
Yep.
Perfect. And then you leading through those 3 is the most powerful form of leadership there is. Delegated leadership, shared leadership, right?
Mhm.
So that but if you whatever those 3 silos are, right? I'll just say it doesn't have to be this way. Let's say Kava has 3 separate functions, and each of those 3 guys is siloed up into those 3 separate functions. Do I have the right 3 guys there? Because that's kind of where you got to start, right?
Yep.
And do I have do I got Ringo Starr playing the guitar over here on function 1, right? Because that's a mistake.
Yep.
So matching a team's members with its mission is the E. That's the equipping. That's a critical form of it. The
Mhm.
A is accountability, and that's setting and maintaining high standards within the team. So the standards are not the mission, but the manner in which the mission is performed.
Yep.
The requirements of each task, each mission essential task of the team. What is it we say we do? Okay. And to what degree do we say we get it done?
Yep.
That's accountability. And of course, that starts with the Q.
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot set a standard which you either cannot or will not meet.
Yep.
It's absolutely incumbent upon you because as soon as you stop doing, as soon as you do that, then that standard means nothing.
Right. Yep.
Means nothing, which is probably the most difficult part about it because you're like, I know I told everybody to be here at 8:30 in the morning, but I don't feel like it today. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
Once you start down that road, you have failed to set and maintain high standards. So, setting of it, most organizations I've noticed that are sick, bullfroggy and moving towards lizard, don't actually have standards in the
Right.
manner that we're talking about. They do not have objective measures of excellence.
Right.
They have aspirations. What's
Or
the standard of?
values or yeah.
Yes. Expressions of values are fine. I'm not criticizing those. Uh, what I'm saying is that they aren't standards. And if you don't have standards, but you have expression of values masquerading as standards, then that's just a mascot. That's
Yeah.
mascotry. It's not real. So
Yeah.
if you can't apply behavior to an objective standard of excellence that you've set for the team, then it will do you no good.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, hey, what's your standard? Our standard is to be the best, Kava, best. Give me the four. What do they stand for again?
Clinical and business applications.
Okay, we got clinical applications. We're going to be the best applier of clinical applications there is in the entire Midwest. There's a guy. It was like, I want every person on this team to meet that standard. They're like, okay. A
Yeah.
week later, like, I don't think you guys are meeting that standard. Like, I think I'm the best. I mean, what
Yeah. Well, it kind of goes back to the conversation we had about language and defining terms, right? And
Right.
as I look at previous versions of maybe a mission that we've had, I would say, and even our values, I would say they're not defined in a way that people can really say, well, if innovation is one of our values, well, did I innovate today? Like that we don't,
Yeah.
well, they're not written in a way that anybody could answer those questions. And so I think,
either consciously or subconsciously, somebody went through the drill of writing that down because they read it in a book or whatever, or they had like some consultant tell them, but, or subconscious or consciously, they're like, I don't want to do this. So I'm just going to write a bunch of aspirations on the wall. Stuff where people come up, we're going to be honest, or like, why would you state as a value something that's the threshold?
yeah,
Like the threshold thing. Well, if you're going to be honest, I
yeah.
mean, I've always wondered about why they do that. I mean, what's the point of expressing something as a value that needs to be a given? That
Mhm.
should be a fundamental given.
Yeah,
And having that written on the wall, of what actual value is that? It's just clutter. You
yeah,
just got to keep it as simple as possible so that people have something they can aim at and remember. To this complex web of crazy aspirations that really should be threshold levels of behavior for anybody who's employed or anybody who's around more than one person. It's like,
yeah,
what do you value? Well, we will not openly defecate in the common areas. Like, we go, okay, yeah,
yeah,
that's a good one. Don't do that. I mean, but what is it you say you do here
yeah,
specifically? And
yeah,
to what level are you going to do it without comparison to anyone else? That's the other thing. How many times have you heard one of these mission statements to say, to be the best amongst
mm,
what of our 7 major competitors?
yeah,
Okay, that might be marketing materials outward to say we're the best clinical application, business application people you're ever going to meet. Great. Go tell I don't know who your kind of client base would be. Yeah, go tell them that. Give them, most, brochures or whatever to say that. But
yeah,
internally, what difference does it make? Like, why are you measuring yourself against, your competitors and using that as a standard? What if they all absolutely suck?
right,
It's
right,
like, oh, we're the best in the entire Nebraska River Basin, whatever.
yeah,
We're the best. Like, yeah, but the other 6 aren't worth a dang. So
yeah,
what have we actually
yeah,
achieved? Aspirations, comparison to competitors. I don't get those as standards. They aren't a standard. So you look at your business and you say, how do I measure it? How do I do that?
mm,
Right. So I have a standard in my litigation practice. We take the first deposition in the case as a
mm,
standard. To take the deposition, it means there's predicate work that's got to be done. We got to get the pleadings done. We got to get our discovery requests out. We got to process the documents. We got to run through all the hoops. I want to take that first as deposition. whether I'm the plaintiff or the defendant. I can control the narrative of the case that way. Always want to do that. That's a standard. If
Mhm.
we take the second deposition because the guy got the jump on me, I can say to my team, what do we got to do to get faster? That's too slow. They got the
Yep.
jump on us. So standards need to be that objective, simple, attainable, and important.
Mhm.
All those things. And
Yeah.
setting them and maintaining them actually means increasing them.
Yeah.
Because if you don't increase them, you fall back, and now I'm going to bring the competitors back in. They'll catch you,
Right.
right?
Right.
Right. If you are the market leader, to be the market leader, if you're the market leader, and you get ahead because you've done something good, well, you better keep going, right?
Yeah.
You bet. And you should always be doing that anyway, even in your personal life, like with your workouts, like we talk about fitness. Okay. I'm in good shape. Are you getting in better shape every day? Are
Right.
you working at it just a little bit harder every day? I mean, that's why one thing I love about my Garmin telling me that exercise load, and I can
Yeah.
look at, well, last week, we do here SIP on Fridays, suffer in place, and I say, well, last week it was a 57, today it was an 82, right? If it starts falling back, well, we're not hitting it hard enough.
Yep.
That's an objective standard. We got to get a little bit more difficult every time we do it over time, over time, so that you set and maintain high standards. Maintenance of high standards is a direct result of acceleration of that
Yep.
standard. All right, that's
And
the A.
is that just sort of as you develop that team mission, sort of having the conversation then of like, in order to achieve this mission, what are the standards we need to meet? I mean, is that as
That's
simple
right.
as that? Okay.
What are the tasks that we perform that are part of that mission, and what are the standards that we're going to meet when we do those?
Okay.
That's what they are. That's what they are. And they also can be kind of like generalized things. A standard, for instance, could be that we are going to wear button down shirts, collar
Yeah.
shirts, whatever, collar shirts. You either are or you're not,
Right. Right.
right? A standard could be you will be in the office 4 days a week. You can have one, triple O, out of office. You can have one a
Mhm.
week. That's a standard. That's a standard. If it's important to your work, if it's helpful one way or the other. So if proximity is something that helps your teamwork, it might not. I don't know it might not. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't matter. Maybe you have a different standard, which is you are going to be reachable through Teams, from 9 to 5.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't, whatever it's going to be. And then of course, then you have to,
Be
you have to do that.
reachable. Yeah.
You have to,
Yeah.
you have to be reachable, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's accountability. Now, related to that is the Black Tahoe thing, which is the person who will not meet the standard is doing it for one reason or another. One reason is because they cannot. They lack the
Mhm.
training, they lack the experience, they cannot. The other reason is they will not. The guy who cannot, let's assume he will, right? If he could, right? The guy who will not, it's because he can but won't. The
Mm.
guy who cannot, that's a guy you can teach, you can train, you can help.
Lead. Yeah. Yeah.
Right, you can lead that guy. You can say, okay, here's where you need to be. You're here. What do I have to do to get you from here to here? How am I going to do that? You can
Mhm.
bring him up there. And with that guy, I'm willing to ride that guy for a long way. I
Yeah.
mean, if that guy is really willing to try, he's like, yeah, he says, I recognize this shortcoming in my performance. I understand what I have to do to improve, and I'm willing to keep trying to do it. I mean, I'll really ride that guy a long way. The other
Mhm.
guy, he can, but he won't. I won't ride that guy very far. I mean, I will ask him, what is it what obstacles to your willingness to perform properly do I need to remove? What's going on? Something you don't like around here? You disagree with the way we're doing it? You know, Something's in your way? Is there a tool you need? Whatever it is. And if the guy won't express it or tells me something that can't be done, then, well, man, I don't know what to tell you. Either you're going to meet that standard or you have to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that guy, I'm not riding very long. If he says, I promise I will, and then he won't, then he's got to go.
Mm,
He's got to go.
mhm.
And that's really hard to do, right? It's really hard to do, and it's impossible to do without standards
Yeah,
because there's no
for
way to
sure.
go in there and say, "Hey, you're here." He goes, "Well, what do you mean I'm here?" "Well, here is to be the most honest and bestest person in the world." And you're not the well, like,
Yeah.
you're never
Is
going
it
to get
is it
anywhere.
possible is it possible to have too many standards?
Yeah, they
Okay.
should. You should have standards about stuff that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
know, I mean, there's going to be some like cultural stuff, like talk about the cleanliness of the break room, whatever. There's going to be that kind of stuff where I'm not firing you for leaving a plate in a dish, whatever. The stuff
Right.
that goes
You
to
don't
the
have a
heart.
standard that you didn't create a rule or put up a sign that says the new standard is you will
No, right.
clean the dishes or whatever. Yeah.
And to me, that's not really a standard so much as it's a cultural norm.
Yeah.
It's it's who we say it's how we say we do this.
Mhm.
Right? I almost stumbled and said who we say we are, which I hate that expression. It's how we say we do this. This is how we do this.
Yeah.
And it's not, it doesn't go right to the heart of the mission. So my firm's mission: prepare for trial in order to resolve disputes as quickly and efficiently as possible. And that's our mission. Within prepare, there's like 7 critical steps to that. And that breaks out. These are the things we do, right? To prepare for trial. Purpose: resolve disputes and tractable legal disagreements as quickly and efficiently as possible. So I can say to a guy, why is this case not moving forward? What's going on here? Guy walks in, I think we need a continuance for this trial. Like, why? How's that quick? It's got to have a reason, right? The
Yeah.
reason can't be, well, I'm just behind him. No, man, you got to pick up the pace. The longer the case drags, the more expensive it is for the client. The more time you give the other guy, the more likely it is that he's prepared. No, you want to move fast. You got
Mhm.
to move fast. Action is faster than reaction, both in combat and in litigation. Move fast, get her done. Do not continue stuff. Do not drag stuff out. Do this stuff as quickly as you possibly can, doing it correctly and doing it as cheaply as you can.
Mm.
Not
Okay.
cutting corners, but not doing stuff that doesn't need to be done.
Right.
That's the way you resolve disputes as quickly and efficiently as possible. That's the way you do it. And that, notice I'm not saying so we can be the most lucrative law firm, because if you do that, you will have plenty of business. You'll have plenty of people coming to you for legal help if you do that. They will
Mhm.
say, hey, they kept this case moving along. The billing looked fair. I saw the billing affidavit from the other guy. They were a lot cheaper. They did a good job. That's the kind of stuff that creates a reputation in the industry where you are, that ensures that you will have a constant flow of business. That's how my business. Well, I'm a service business.
Yep. Yep.
Professional services. So it's going to be different for somebody, making widgets or whatever it is you guys do. But
Yeah.
you have to figure out what that critical thing is, right?
Yep.
And that way you can see that mission. The reason why I say it all the time to my people is that I can see if they make a decision. This goes to the I2 thing. They can say it. I can say why that's not the best decision under the circumstances. They take some initiative and I say, okay, what'd you do? Tell me why you did that. All right. I said, and I'll ask you Socratically, is that the quickest way you could have done it? No. Why'd you do it that way then? Oh, well, and they usually give me an excuse, right? And I say, okay, how can we fix that?
Mm.
You
Mhm.
need more help? I got too many cases on you. What do we got to do to fix that? So that's the purpose of having that mission. It should be like almost like a template you carry around with
Yeah.
you. You lay down. Okay.
And
Lay it down.
everything relates back to that.
That's right. Right.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, okay.
It is the ruler by which you measure what you see as the
Yeah.
performance. And you can say
Yeah.
shortcomings, you can measure it that way.
I like that. I do think that, back to the kind of the feedback discussion too, then you're giving feedback that's also in support of that, right? So,
Right.
because I do know without sort of a well-defined mission or at least a simplified one, it's, if the feedback just comes across as like, hey, you need to be better at XYZ, or, it's sort of like, well, why are you giving me this feedback, right? How does the feedback help the organization or the company or the individual?
Right.
And that's
Right.
ultimately should be
So,
related back to the mission. But if that's unclear, then it, again, that all falls apart.
right. And I think in the C3 type organization, uh, the purpose of the feedback of the manager giving the feedback is because, the head shed has said it's time to get feedback. What
Mhm.
that's
Right.
not why you do it, right? Like,
Right, right.
I am not giving you feedback because meteorologist Jim said it was time to do it.
Yeah,
That's the wrong reason.
right.
That's the wrong reason.
Okay. Go back for a second. So
Trust,
TEA, and now we're on
right?
M, but remind me what the T, E, and A are.
T is trust. That's reliance between team members.
Yep.
E is equipping, right? That's matching a team's members with its mission. A is accountability. That's setting and maintaining high standards.
Okay.
And M is mission out, is prioritizing team mission accomplishment, prioritizing it, saying
Okay.
everything else is subordinate to us accomplishing our mission. So the Secret Santa or whatever, we can do that, but it's not more important than accomplishing a mission. And if
Yep.
we're down to time, time, money, whatever resources, where we're going to spend that time, it's not doing the Secret Santa thing.
Right.
If that means we don't accomplish the mission. And so that prioritizing that all the time and making sure people understand that, you know, you find somebody doing something that's not missional at all. And you say, why are you doing that?
Mhm.
The answer is probably say, so I can, look like I'm busy.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
or just people get distracted, right? I mean, I
yeah,
do think, but it's hard to manage your time if you're, and we all get distracted with other things, right? And so to be able to say no, clearly say no to the things that are not missional, I
right,
love that. I love
right,
that.
right. So that always prioritizing that is critical. And I'm not saying it's a leadership thing, right? So, if you believe as the leader that it enhances whatever it is you say your mission is to say do a habitat house, have a bunch of
Mm,
people, 75 people sign up for that, then I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm saying you should be able to explain that.
right.
If it's because, well, that gets positive publicity for us, we're going to get more business, that's fine. What I would contend is not fine is to somehow imply that's the mission. Every once in a while, I get one of these little debates with one of these, corporate responsibility guys are like, "Oh, a corporation should be about more than making money." I say, no, it's not. Corporation exists. All corporations exist for one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to take profits legally. There's no other reason for it. I mean, if you want to form an altruistic organization that goes around doing good things for people, form an altruistic organization that goes around doing good things for people, a la
Right.
F3. That's what F3 is. F3, our profit last year was zero. We are not an organization, a corporation designed to make money. We are a corporation, but that's not our purpose, right? I mean,
Yep.
that is not what we do. If you want F3 to do something that's altruistic, that's good because that's what we do. We're not doing it at the sacrifice of profit because we don't make profit. That's not what we do.
Right.
Same token, your business, I assume, is a profit-seeking business. I assume.
Yeah, I mean, in healthcare, we are more focused on, patient care, right? How can we provide,
No,
world-class
patient
healthcare
care.
for,
Oh, there you go with the world-class healthcare. Patient care, whatever that means. Patient care has, okay, I want to hit that because I hear that all the time. Who cares what the world does? I mean,
Yeah,
the American healthcare system is already the head and shoulders above everywhere in the world. I
yeah,
mean, there's just no comparison. If you ever, even in Germany, if you've ever been to Christ Krankenhaus in Germany, you know that because it's rationed care, it's not as good as American care. It just isn't. So we already know it's world class. So you don't even need to say that. It's to provide health care, whatever, right? To make money. Unless you're not trying to make money.
yeah,
And people are afraid to say that. I'm like, if you won't say it, then what am I supposed to do? How am I
yeah,
supposed to know what to do? Right? I'm not saying that has to be your stated purpose. It's not my law firm's stated purpose. My law firm isn't resolve disputes in order to make money, but we're there. We're If I can't pay my bills and we can't pay people, then what's the point of the thing
yeah,
existing, right? I
yep,
mean, so whatever you do, right? I mean, the purpose to me should be, I guess, something like to enhance healthcare outcome. It's hard
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
I don't know much about your business.
Yeah, we've got I mean, I think a lot of what we're focused on, right, is so we basically manage and support and advance the technology that our clinicians use, right, to care for patients. And so in that, right, we want to make sure that they're spending less time documenting and more time caring for patients, right? Because that's what they're supposed to do. So a lot of that
So,
has to do with
picture old school, right? In a hospital, and there's like a clipboard at the end of the bed,
yeah. Yep.
right? And a nurse comes in and she writes down doctor comes in. He writes
Yep.
down, 45 milligrams of fluoxetine or whatever it is. And the nurse comes in
Yeah.
later and she writes down the guy's blood pressure, all that crap, right?
Yep.
Like that's an
Yep.
image in my mind, in my boomer mind. That
Yeah.
doesn't exist anymore, I'm going to guess, right?
Right. It's all computerized and
Right. Is
yep.
that what you guys do?
Yep. Yep. So we
Okay.
we
Yeah.
manage
Right.
those systems. Yeah. Yep.
So it seems to me that it would be really good if some dude is in hospital X, has some kind of procedure or whatever, and then he ends up in hospital Y. They don't have to go back to hospital X and say, "Hey, do you have this guy's clipboard?"
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
The clipboard is virtual or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Is that like an idiot's way to explain what you guys do?
No, I mean, I think it's interesting to hear it explained that way, but that's essentially what we've
Yeah.
digitized or
Digitize. Yeah. Right.
yeah. Yep.
Right. I think that's really good and is obviously going to enhance the healthcare outcomes of patients
Yeah.
because it provides uh, information to healthcare professionals more rapidly, more consistently, uh, without the risk of losing it.
Yeah.
Right now,
Yep.
and it also reduces storage. It's just better, you know.
Right.
So if I'm working for you, I know, anything that enhances that makes that procedure more streamlined, more effective, more efficient, whatever, is probably a good idea,
Right.
right? Anything that
Yep.
reduces bureaucracy, reduces what we used to call in the military the fog of war, right? We call
Yeah.
friction. Friction. So it's a Clausewitz thing, like fog of war. So efficiency is very important to a military operation. It's like really, when you think of somebody like in the military is like super organized, it's not because they're like, I like to be dressed right, dressed and organized. It's because that kind of efficiency cuts through the fog of war. So if you know that every man has in a battle in a particular unit has his hand grenades on his left shoulder, right? That's where we've got them affixed. And
Mhm.
you're in the fog and you got a guy's dead and you need to grab his hand grenade for you to use. You know where it's going to be. I mean, it seems
Right.
like a silly little thing, but he's like, he doesn't have it in his pocket. He didn't
Right.
have it on his right side. This is where he's
Right.
got it. And there's a
Yeah.
reason why he's got it there because most of us are right-handed. Boom. Right? We grab it,
Yeah.
pull the pin, throw it. Right? So that. You know that. And then in periods of limited visibility and high stress, you're not going through this whole thought process, search process. That's cutting through the fog of war, all
Mhm.
those things that make it more difficult to be efficient. Well, that same idea of fog of war, friction exists I think in every pursuit. I know it certainly exists in my business in litigation, and constantly I'm
Yeah.
dealing with the fog of litigation, like all this friction that occurs. How can we be more efficient and less expensive by reducing that stuff, by
Mhm.
making sure we don't make those tiny little mistakes and we can deliver the same quality of legal services more quickly and for less cost? That might actually be a template for a mission for any professional services organization, accountant, engineering, whatever, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Whatever you're doing, right, to reduce the fog of that business so you can be more efficient to deliver those professional services more efficiently and at less cost, that could be where you could start really with anything, right?
Yeah.
Now,
Yep.
we all are doing it for profit in the sense that the investment of the owners is supposed to return a profit.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we
Yeah.
won't be in business very long. And that incentive, that profit-seeking incentive, far being a negative thing, is actually a highly positive thing. So my critique of the healthcare industry is not that you have profit-seeking entities in it, it's that the government has so deformed the industry, taken it
Yeah.
so far away. You can't say, okay, I need some procedure, right? You can't
Yep.
go to 6 guys and say, give me the cheapest one.
Right.
Like, who knows? You can't even ask anybody what anything costs, right? I
Yep.
mean, they say, well, what? It depends on your health insurance. How could it possibly,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
how much does it cost how much costs to resection my colon?
Yeah.
That's
Well,
not the, well,
it's interesting too because a lot of the rules or standards that we are held to in our organization are not we didn't create, and so then but it makes me think, hey, if we've got some governing organization creating standards, then we should do what we can to not create a bunch more of our own,
of
like
course, of
so I
course.
think
But the trick for you guys is to be excellent at not letting those complications, is what I call them in my business, not letting those complications impede you from being quicker and cheaper.
mhm.
And that's a battle, of its
Yeah.
own. Like, not letting, to me, those things are all friction, right?
Yep.
It keeps a doctor from fixing the patient, right?
Right.
Keeps
Right.
whatever, so, the word complications comes from watchmakers. So, you take a basic watch, right? Just tells you the time. Complication is the date. That was the first complication. Then the
Mm,
day. That was the second complication. Complications fill the watch and make it, more difficult, whatever. You have to make the part smaller, whatever. Now, I mean, a Garmin has 1,000 complications, right? But the
right.
one thing
Right.
it does do is it does tell you the time, right?
Yeah.
So applying that to any business, say complications are things that are added for good or bad or whatever,
Yep.
but they don't go to the essence of what the device or the entity is designed to do. It's a timekeeping device.
Mhm.
It also tells you how well I slept last night. That's a complication. The time thing is the thing that matters. So complications in my business are crazy. We have court ordered complications. We have ethical complications. We have all sorts of things that do have nothing to do with resolving legal disputes.
Mm,
They're there for a variety of reasons. Some good, some bad, some indifferent. Somebody with authority to do so has introduced those things. I can't eliminate them, but what I can do is not allow the complications to become the mission. The
mm,
complication tail should not wag the missional dog.
yep.
And any regulated industry like yours and mine is going to have those. And like you say, the people within the regulated industry should not be the ones loading the complications on themselves, right?
Yeah.
That should be the last thing you should possibly do.
Yeah. Well, I love it. It's interesting too. So then do you, as you're thinking about the complications, then you account for those in your process or in
Right.
some of your standard operating procedures, essentially, it sounds like?
Yeah. Yeah. You don't have any choice to do that. So um, if we have a case in a jurisdiction that requires, this is the king of all complications as far as I'm concerned. Some jurisdictions, the judges require you to meet with the other lawyer before the trial, show each other all your exhibits you think you're going to introduce into the trial, and then basically tell each other whether you're going to object.
Mm,
It's called the meet and mark. And it is the most worthless, high sounding idea that any judge has ever come up with, because no lawyer worth his salt is ever going to be truthful and say, these are really the exhibits I'm going to use. He's just going to say, yeah, here's 10,000 exhibits I might use, and change his mind when the trial starts. Change his mind. He's not going to do it. By the same token, you show me a bunch of documents, only the ones that I'm going to put in myself, I'm not going to object to. I'm not going to
mhm.
tell you the truth. So I know that in a particular jurisdiction, that thing's coming. I know it's a worthless waste of time, but I know I have to plan for it so that I can do it with the least amount of effort and energy to meet the baseline minimum standard that the
Mhm.
judge requires to check the block so I can get onto things that do matter. Planning for that complication, not allowing it to be an obstacle, is part of the fog of litigation. And there's a lot of them like that. But to me, that's the one that's the most frustrating, because I know it absolutely does no good. It
Mhm.
never does any good. And but if you don't do it, it's going to harm your client's position. The judge will sanction you for it. So you have to do it, even though it provides absolutely nothing. Not to
Interesting.
anybody who knows what he's doing. Um,
Right. What what, so and maybe we cover this next time, but just thinking about the good carpenter then, sort of the like, where does that fit in as you're thinking about, like, okay, we're trying to increase individual initiative, trying to get people to, exercise their own agency, make their own decisions, sort of in pursuit of the mission. And then does the sort of building of craftsmanship or that good carpenter piece come in as a result of that, or where does that fit?
Well, it's that the good carpenter idea is the inverse of that old, expression of it's only a bad carpenter who blazes tools, right? So,
Hmm.
if the birdhouse you're building comes out lopsided, it ain't the saw's fault, right? Only a bad carpenter will blame his tools, right? So I would apply it in the context of the discussion we just had, would be I'm responsible for the outcome. I don't control the outcome. I only have dominion to the input. And so I know what to do to get ready for a trial. I have dominion over that. I don't have control over what the jury or the judge does. So if things happen along the way that produce an adverse outcome, I don't say it's the jury's fault. It's the
Mm,
judge's fault. It's, my associate didn't do a good job. I don't say any of those things. Only a bad carpenter would blame his tools. A good carpenter would say the outcome is not ideal or is not what was intended. What can I do to improve that? Yes, perhaps it would be better to have a different judge. You know what? I don't get to choose that.
mm,
Perhaps it would be better to have a different jury pool, to select jurors from. You know what? I don't get to make that selection. So it's pointless me to blame that. I have to cut as best I can and drill as best I can with the tools that are provided to me. The only blame goes to me for not using those tools as best I can under the circumstances that prevail. That's what a good carpenter would do.
mm.
He would say, that's the saw I've got. I'm going to cut with it.
Yeah. That, well, yeah, I would love to dive into that in more detail next time we chat, because I do think I see how they're related, but also it sounds like there's maybe more to unpack.
Well, the
Um,
chapter on good carpenters is really more directed towards communications.
yeah, yep,
And it starts out with cavemen learning to talk and ends with Twitter. And so the
yeah,
essential point I'm trying to make is people saying, for instance, Twitter's too toxic, and I'm not going to pretend. It's like it's the most powerful communication tool ever existed. And the fact that sometimes it's used improperly by other people is not a good reason to abandon it to those people. I mean, if you asked the Apostle Paul, would he have tweeted to the Corinthians? I think the answer would have been yeah.
yeah,
And the fact that the Pharisees were and the Gnostics were tweeting out bad stuff wouldn't have stopped him. He would have said, yeah, it's too powerful. I'm not going to blame the device for that. I'm going to use it really well. I'm going to be a good carpenter.
yeah,
And I think that's the heart of the good carpenter chapter of the minivan centurion.
yeah. Well, no, I mean, communication breakdown, it's always the same. Having a nervous breakdown driving me insane.
Is it?
Uh, that's Led Zeppelin right there.
Is it? Is it? That's a lesser known Led Zeppelin song, but that's a good
Yeah,
one.
yeah,
Communication
I
breakdown,
love it.
and it's well chosen for what we just discussed.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, and it's so cool to me. I do think I know we've talked about the minivan Centurion stuff, and hopefully guys are heard us before, but the collisionlearner.com, you've got all the chapters out there. I do find there's some overlap and relation, like the splitter and the jester. We were talking about that this morning in our Q source discussion, and so we just encourage guys, go check that out, because we're trying to dive into that here. And it's so interesting to me, just, sort of SkyQ's timing, and the lessons we've been reviewing and continuing to review. So just really appreciate your time and your wisdom. It's been awesome.
Yeah, honored, and I appreciate you, promoting the website. Thanks. I'll have to start promoting Kava.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we're all internal. All of our customers are the, the clinicians and the operational teams at the
Yeah.
hospital. So it's but it's good. I do think the mission is really something that I think people can get behind. It's just maybe a little bit fuzzy and could be simplified. So I'm looking forward
Yeah.
to doing that. So
Good. Congratulations.
yeah, thank you.